1 in 4 of our current employees are looking for work outside our companies. Now more than ever is the time to consider the employee experience we offer them. Welcome to the People-Powered Solutions Podcast, a show that empowers leaders to create a workplace culture that attracts and keeps top talent and drives business success. I'm your host, Lorianne Duque, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today. A workplace culture can make or break an organization. We believe that everyone has the power to create a positive and productive workplace culture. Our goal is to empower leaders with the knowledge, tools, and resources they need to make that happen by bringing them interviews with top thought leaders, expert panels, and practical advice that you can implement right away. So whether you're a leader looking to enhance your organization's culture or an individual seeking to create positive change in your workplace, we invite you to join us on this journey towards creating that highly sought out unicorn workplace culture. Let's get this party started. Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of People-Powered Solutions Podcast. This first episode, I'm going to be flying solo. Essentially, I'm going to be answering all of the questions that might be lingering in the back of your minds. Number one, who is this girl? What does she want to talk to us about? What can we expect from this show? Why did she even decide to start a podcast? So let's get this party started. I'm Lorianne Duque. I am the CEO of People-Powered Solutions, a organizational excellence firm that supports and helps organizations create that highly sought after unicorn workplace culture that enables them to attract and keep the talent they need to thrive. Now, that was a lot of words. Essentially, for 21 years, I worked for the same organization. To be quite honest, the first 7 years, I was extremely happy. I was in that phase of my job where I was learning the ropes. I was coming to understand the different programs and services that we offered. I was really building up my knowledge and expertise relevant to that position I was in. Now, fast forward 7 years down the road is where I had already decided that I would not be retiring from this organization. And to be frank, it was government organization. It had excellent pension, excellent benefits, but I already knew that mentally the challenge did not seem to be there at that point. I also need to highlight that I worked in a satellite office of a main office, which was situated about 2 hours drive away. Canadian, right? So I will use hours to explain how far we were from that main office instead of kilometers or miles. So for the first 7 years, I was doing good. At the end of 7 years, I knew my job inside and out. Unfortunately, because I was located geographically away from that main office, a lot of the opportunities that were coming up for promotions or to try a new role within the organization were limited to a certain radius from that main office. That being said, it also meant that I could not apply. So I had to resolve myself to stay in that position within the ministry because there was only that position in this town, or to relocation. Unfortunately, 7 years into my career, I got married within the first 2 years, and then I had my 2 children. So I was in full-blown family building, taking care of my kids, crazy home life mode. So relocation was pretty much the last thing on my mind. We've all heard of that 7-year itch. I would say it's a real phenomenon because that's about when I started to yearn for other opportunities. That's about when I started to wonder what next. What's that next chapter of my career going to look like? Unfortunately, the next 14 years, so let's go down 2 other cycles of that 7-year itch, I didn't see a whole heck of a lot of movement. What I did see was an organization that seemed focused on checking all the boxes. They had processes and exercises to check employee engagement, to manage performance, to train and develop their employees. They had all of those kind of organizational excellence attributes. However, here I was completely disengaged, completely checked out. At about the 15-year mark is when I realized I needed to stop waiting for opportunities to just serendipitously show up at my door. I needed to put myself out there. I needed to figure out what that next chapter was going to look like. And then relevant to that end goal, I needed to take the biggest baby step I could to set myself up to be ready if and when that opportunity did arise. I went back to school, completed my postgraduate certificate in HR management, labor relations, and through those studies started to really hone in on what I was extremely passionate about. Bottom line, I was and had always been passionate about helping people be happier at work, helping people connect, helping people work more cohesively, more collaboratively. On the flip side of that, the nature of my job for the past 15 years had also provided me with a very structured way of thinking, this framework driven, we need to standardize and build the pieces and the bones, if you will, required to support growth and development. Once I was done my postgrad, I started to take consulting clients on the side that I would help figure out, identify, kind of map out where they're at currently, identify some quick wins, some low-hanging fruit, if you will, to improve their employee experience, as well as develop a plan to mitigate some of the ongoing challenges relevant to the management of their people that they've been contending with for a number of years now. Little did I know the demand would be so great. I continued to do the consulting gigs as a side hustle for a number of years. Then the pandemic hit. Lo and behold, although the demand had always been there to help people connect and to develop the systems required for people to feel fulfilled at work and for people to connect now across a distance remotely with a number of unique challenges that the pandemic and this new world of work had introduced, the demand suddenly exploded. So I decided to take a year of leave, take that leap, and start my own venture full time. Within the first 2 years, I had no doubt in my mind that this is what I was supposed to do on a full-time basis. I have to say, I haven't worked a day in my life since I left that organization. When I say that, I know it's cheesy, but what I mean by it is I'm so passionate about what I do. And I'm so passionate about helping organizations create happier, more productive workplaces that it doesn't actually feel like work. I have to say, I'm extremely grateful for the 21 years I did spend at that organization. Why? Because it not only provided me with some excellent experience, know-how, expertise, lessons learned, but also when you think about, I was that employee. I was completely checked out. I couldn't see. It was like that when you're a teenager and you decide you want to break up with someone and all you could see is the fault. In the later years of my career, I was blessed to have these amazing developmental opportunities. But unfortunately, it was too little too late. I had already checked out. That door had closed. And the resentment that I'd accumulated over the first 17 years of my career was far too great to do anything but leave the organization. That experience is what has fueled me to help companies do better for their employees. That experience has fueled my passion to help create happier, more productive organizations for others, but also in my soon to be published book, to provide them with an actual methodology of how to do so. So why did I start this podcast? So that we can provide on a weekly basis some very specific tips, tricks, lessons learned, bring in a panel of experts to share additional insight, information, expertise, to provide the tools to organization and the information for companies to start improving their workplace culture. I wanted to broaden my scope, bottom line. I wanted to broaden the audience of my message so that ultimately we can broaden our impact. I want to help organizations create that highly sought after unicorn, if you will, workplace experience. I want to help companies and organizations set the gold standard for what employees can expect and should expect from their workplace culture. I've mentioned my book already. Just want to provide a bit more information relevant to that. I decided to write a book because everywhere I looked, we could find a number of articles and literature and research on what motivates someone at work. And when I say what motivates, it's not just what motivates them to show up and not actually call in sick, but to show up and not just occupy space. What motivates someone to that level of high performance, and how do you provide for those motivational needs? I could find information everywhere, figured out really quickly over my 21-year career what motivates people at work, and through my education, reinforced and validated a lot of those findings, and that's what the book's about. Now that we've provided you with insight into what are those 10 things that motivate a worker, and what can I now do about it? Now that I understand things like clarity, communication, recognition, work-life balance, good leadership, now that I understand all of these concepts, what do I do about it? The book walks you through a step-by-step process to effectively transform your employee experience, to create that highly sought after workplace culture. We are at a unique place with this book in that it is in the final stages of editing and should be launching, I would say, ideally by the summer, realistically maybe by the early fall, but you're welcome to be part of that journey by subscribing and following us. Now, what can you expect from our podcast? Tips, tricks, valuable insight from experts about a variety of topics: conflict management, communication, relationship building at work, all those elements, those key features of a unicorn workplace culture. A secondary goal of my podcast is to help organizations realize that it's not just about the money. There are a lot of things you can be doing that don't cost a lot of money. There are so many quick wins, low-hanging fruit, business process improvement pieces that will cost you nothing to do, however, will increase the level of clarity, the level of communication that you transmit to your employees. That in and of itself will increase their level of engagement. They will feel like they're in the know. They will feel like they're set up for success. They will feel like you trust them to do the work you hired them to do. Make sure to tune in to get the very specific tips and tricks on all things workplace culture. I look forward to this journey with you all and can't wait to introduce our first guest next week. Well, folks, thanks for joining us. Want to continue the conversation? Then head on over to our social media platforms, all of which are also linked in the description, to keep it going. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to make sure you don't miss another valuable episode.